Hey everyone, buckle up. It's time for an epic ride. In Spain, Manel and his wife Julia are heading home in their car when Julia brings up the topic of starting a family. Manel hasn't yet made up his mind, and Julia, needing clarity for their future plans, presses him for an answer. The conversation quickly turns into an argument, and in their distraction, Julia has to swerve the car to avoid an oncoming vehicle. Unfortunately, their car veers off course and lands in the middle of the road, just in time to be struck by a massive truck, which sends the car tumbling. A year later, Manel, now a widower, lives alone with only his cat for company. On the television, reports are airing about the UN deliberating the possibility of closing borders due to a mysterious virus spreading across the world. Despite preventive measures, the virus continues to wreak havoc, and people have started resorting to violence at the borders, desperately trying to escape. Manel, deeply entrenched in his grief, pays little attention to the news and eventually mutes the TV. He misses the footage of a hospital security camera showing a patient slowly transforming into a zombie. Later, Manel goes for a drive, noticing an ambulance pass by. Graffiti on the town walls reads ominously that the end is near. Manel arrives at the harbor to meet two women who are interested in buying his boat, a vessel he hasn't used since Julia's death. While looking for the boat's papers, Manel stumbles upon Julia's bracelet, and memories flood his mind. On his way back home, he receives a call from his sister but decides to ignore it. At the supermarket, he notices a strange behavior among the shoppers. They're hoarding more food than usual, leaving shelves nearly empty. Later, back at home, Manel ties Julia's bracelet around the cat's neck while watching the news, which confirms the virus has now arrived in Spain. That evening, he has a video call with his sister, Belén, who delivers unexpected news. Belén, whose husband works for the government, shares that her family is being relocated to the Canary Islands. She invites Manel to join them, but Manel turns down the offer. The following day, Manel notices his neighbors are leaving in a hurry, prompting him to decide it's time to leave as well, taking his cat with him. As he drives, Manel hears on the radio that a new strain of the virus is rapidly spreading through Europe. This variant has a much shorter incubation period, only a few minutes, and spreads through bites and open wounds. At the airport, Manel sends a message to Belén, telling her he's changed his mind and will join her after all. But as the crowd attempts to board planes, tickets are suddenly denied without explanation. The tension rises, and people begin to shout at an employee, demanding answers. Then, the big screen announces that all flights have been canceled. Everyone receives a message on their phones declaring a civil security alert. The crowd goes into a panic, with some people attempting to board the plane anyway. Manel receives a call from Belén, who advises him to go home and stay put until they have more information. At that moment, a man snatches a gun from a guard and threatens to open fire, sparking chaos as people rush to leave the airport. Stuck in traffic, Manel hears on the radio that all roads and bridges are in gridlock. Military helicopters can be seen overhead, and frustrated drivers abandon their cars, arguing with one another. The news reports that military personnel have been evacuated, and rioters have injured several soldiers. Eventually, many drivers give up waiting and leave their cars behind to walk on foot. Manel, clutching his cat, decides to do the same. He reaches his neighborhood by nightfall only to find soldiers surrounding a building, preparing to set up a special tunnel in a house. Enjoying the story so far? Subscribe, like, and share your thoughts in the comments below. Your support powers our adventures. Now, let's dive back into the adventure. There are strange noises emanating from the building, and Manel is stunned when he sees two soldiers dragging a zombie out of the house through the tunnel. Outside, a woman cries for her sick husband, but the zombie is taken away in a military vehicle. Manel recognizes the man. Afterward, he returns home, exhausted, and falls asleep, plagued by dreams of the accident and Julia's death. The next morning, Belén video calls Manel and informs him that safe zones are being organized to redistribute the population. However, there are disagreements within the army, as bringing more people into the zones increases the risk of spreading the virus. Other countries have already struggled with similar efforts. She insists Manel stay put. Soon after, major cities across the country announce a full quarantine, trapping everyone inside and sparking further riots. As the virus spreads uncontrollably, zombies begin to emerge in Manel's neighborhood. People film the chaos for social media, and some share videos offering survival tips, including how to create armor to protect themselves. In response, the government declares a state of emergency and imposes new restrictions. All commercial activity must cease after 2 p.m., and military personnel may begin enforcing martial law. When Manel goes to the supermarket again, he finds that nearly all food has been wiped out, and shoppers are stealing from each other's carts. He grabs what he can, and on his way out, fighter jets fly overhead. At the gas station, he encounters a wounded police officer who, after a brief interaction, locks himself inside the store, using handcuffs to secure the doors. More people rush into the station, crying for help when suddenly a zombie attacks another officer, biting into his face. Manel grabs a mop, preparing to defend himself, but the fallen officer shoots the zombie before it reaches him, causing blood to splatter across Manel's face. Inside the store, the injured cop begins to transform into a zombie, pounding on the glass. Manel attempts to check on the officer, who shoots at the floor to warn him away. After grabbing the supplies he needs, Manel leaves, and the cop ultimately takes his own life. Later that evening, the president appears on television, announcing an extended lockdown. People who refuse to cooperate with the army's evacuation efforts will face criminal consequences. Following online tutorials, Manel begins reinforcing his house's exterior and installs a security camera. That night, the military arrives in his neighborhood to begin evacuating the area. However, Belen messages him, telling him to stay put and that she will come to rescue him soon. Manel turns off the lights and hides with his cat, listening as soldiers pound on his door. Fortunately, the soldiers do not break down his door or notice him hiding at the window, and they eventually leave. 2 weeks later, Manel runs low on food and can no longer reach Belen due to the loss of communication services. After much hesitation, he gathers tools for self-defense, dresses in layers for protection, and finally leaves his home. He breaks into several houses searching for food but finds nothing. After hours of scouring the area, Manel comes across an elderly woman named Gabriella, who couldn't join the evacuation due to being wheelchair-bound. Though Gabriella has no food either, she provides him with a list of houses where neighbors hoarded supplies before the lockdown. Manel visits each house on her list, gradually finding food and useful supplies. Gabriella also gives him a bike, which allows him to venture farther and gather more provisions. He shares everything with her, even providing her with a walkie-talkie so they can stay in touch while he searches for more supplies. There's only one house left to visit, the one where the soldiers discovered the zombie. Manel finds no food, but comes across a tank filled with dead fish. Just as he turns to leave, he senses someone behind him. In a panic, Manel opens fire only to realize he's shot at an unarmed human. The person flees, thinking Manel is dangerous. Before leaving, Manel checks one final cupboard and finds more food. Days go by, and Manel and Gabriella meet regularly to share meals. One night, after drinking too much, Manel sends Gabriella a message expressing his regret for not spending more time with his family. As he falls asleep, he dreams of the accident again, recalling the moments when they were airlifted to the hospital. Suddenly, he's jolted awake by Gabriella calling on the walkie-talkie, urging him to turn on the radio. When he does, a voice announces that survivors are being evacuated to the Canary Islands. The coordinates for this group are shared, and Manel, although unsure, decides to go, despite Gabriella's skepticism. He reassures her that they need to leave. Food is running out. Manel plans to use his boat to reach the location, but Gabriella insists she cannot go, fearing she would be a burden. Manel refuses to accept this and promises to take care of her. The next morning, Manel grows worried when Gabriella does not respond to his calls. He rushes to check on her, only to find that she has taken her own life, leaving behind a note thanking him and urging him to save himself. Heartbroken, Manel leaves and is suddenly attacked by a zombie. The zombie manages to disarm Manel, but after a brief struggle, Manel kicks the creature off and climbs atop a car. The zombie grabs his leg, attempting to pull him down. After a tense struggle, Manel opens the car's door, using it to smash the zombie's head against the broken glass. He retrieves his weapon and shoots the creature dead, then takes its ID to leave for authorities. At home, Manel cleans his weapon and sends Belen another message, telling her he can no longer wait. However, communication is still down, so he sets out on his bike, speeding through the desolate roads. He reaches a roadblock, forcing him to travel through the forest where he is pursued by zombies. He evades them for a while, but their attempts to jump onto him keep him alert. Eventually, Manel crosses an abandoned campsite, fearing the worst. But there is no way out. As he speeds through it, a massive horde of zombies emerges, forcing him to accelerate and dodge equipment. He narrowly avoids being bitten and reaches a clear road, only to find it blocked by a pile of bodies. Unable to stop in time, Manel falls from his bike. Thankfully, the cat is safe in its crate. As zombies approach, Manel rushes to get back on his bike, but it won't start. He has no choice but to run through the forest, zombies hot on his heels. He eventually reaches the harbor, and as he crosses the bridge, he closes the gate behind him. The zombies follow him, pounding on the glass, but Manel is already through a stronger gate, escaping just in time. At first, he is disheartened to find that all the boats are gone. However, after searching the water, he spots an abandoned boat in the distance. Manel swims toward the boat, testing the engine once more. Unfortunately, it won't start. Just as he's about to give up hope, a noise from below catches his attention. He opens a nearby door and discovers a zombie baby, helplessly stuck in a chair. The sight disturbs him, but there's no time to linger. He and his cat leave the boat, moving to a small raft that drifts away from the shore. Though he tries to follow the coordinates from the radio, his efforts are in vain as the signal is lost. Still, Manel doesn't give up. He keeps paddling, hoping for a miracle. As the night falls, the raft stops moving, stranded in the middle of the ocean. Manel checks the engine and finds that it has become jammed as a body has gotten caught in it. His frustration peaks, but just as he's about to abandon all hope, a bright light appears in the distance. Desperation pushes him to wave his arms and shout for help, and to his relief, the light turns out to be a boat, one that's manned by Ukrainian men. They pull him aboard, offering him refuge. The men, despite the language barrier, manage to communicate enough to understand that Manel has been stranded. They welcome him aboard their large ship, offering him food and a safe place to rest. One of the men, Victor, is the only one who speaks Spanish. Victor informs Manel that the Canary Islands, the supposed sanctuary everyone has been fleeing toward, are now under quarantine, and the police won't allow the evacuated survivors to disembark. This only explains the flood of zombies that now infest the land. Manel is given a room on the ship after promising Victor that he will help with any tasks in the morning. As night falls, Manel hears voices from the deck. When he looks out the window, he sees a boat approaching, with a group of survivors on board, asking for help. However, when he goes to ask Victor about this, Victor insists that no new survivors arrived that night. The next day, Manel is summoned to the captain's office, where he is asked to help pinpoint key buildings, such as hospitals and factories, on a map. During this task, Manel notices something strange. The boat he saw the previous night, full of survivors, is now aboard the ship, but the crew members are in possession of the survivors' belongings. Manel questions Victor about it, but Victor refuses to provide any answers. Manel, realizing something isn't right, brings up the possibility of a helicopter that he knows about, one that could help them escape. Victor dismisses the idea, urging Manel to stop asking questions and lay low. Manel becomes increasingly suspicious and starts noticing other oddities on the ship. The crew seems to be hiding something, especially with the large number of boats they've taken from abandoned survivors. Later that day, Manel sneaks around the ship, hiding his cat and collecting items that might be useful. In a secluded room downstairs, he discovers two survivors tied up. He frees one, but as soon as the man stands up, a guard shoots him. Victor arrives just in time, and they struggle over the gun, eventually disarming the guard. The men fight briefly before Victor chokes the guard to death with a rope. Now Victor is ready to escape as well, and the two agree to find the helicopter. Along with another survivor, they carefully make their way through the ship, dodging guards. They finally reach a boat, but just as they're about to leave, two guards open fire, killing the other survivor in the process. Victor and Manel return fire, but Victor is wounded in the shoulder. Despite this, Manel manages to speed the boat away from the ship. They escape the ship's immediate pursuit and eventually reach the shore, where Manel helps Victor walk through the wreckage. They encounter a group of zombies stuck inside a vehicle, which Manel quickly dispatches. Afterward, they steal a car and drive toward a hospital that Manel believes may hold clues about Julia's death. On the way, Victor explains that the ship's captain is a ruthless man, creating a refuge on an island where only those who serve him are allowed to survive. The women and children are used for the captain's personal desires. Manel, enraged by this, focuses on reaching the hospital where he hopes to find some answers. When they finally arrive, Manel is devastated to discover that the helicopter he had hoped to find on the roof is gone. His disappointment is short-lived, however, as a zombie suddenly leaps onto their car. Manel floors the accelerator, trying desperately to shake the creature off. Once they're free of the threat, Manel uses Victor's gun to shoot the zombie and kill it. But the sound of gunfire attracts even more zombies, and Manel begins picking them off one by one. Once inside the hospital, Manel begins searching for something he can use to treat Victor's wound. As he's searching, he hears voices from upstairs. He cautiously heads toward the sound, only to be confronted by another zombie. He quickly eliminates the threat and hides in the hospital, locking himself inside to keep the monsters out. After a few tense moments, Manel realizes that Victor and the cat aren't where he left them. He hears a chute open, and a woman named Lucia tells him to join her. Just as the zombies are about to breach the doors, Manel escapes through the chute with Lucia. She leads him and Victor into a safe infirmary, where the women, Lucia and Sister Cecilia, help treat Victor's wound and stabilize him. Lucia reveals that the helicopter Manel was hoping for is indeed parked behind the hospital in the quarantine zone, though it's surrounded by zombies. That night, the group shares the little food they have left while Manel continues to reflect on his lost family, especially Julia. He visits her old room and, overwhelmed with grief, ties the bracelet to her bed, hoping to find some semblance of peace. The next morning, Manel climbs to the roof to get a better look at the zombies outside. Suddenly, his phone receives a signal, and he finds several messages from Belen, who has been trying to contact him for weeks. While Manel records a message in response, the sound of gunfire draws his attention. He looks out and sees that the crew from the ship is attacking zombies outside the hospital in order to gain access to the building. Realizing the danger, Manel rushes to warn the others. Together, they hatch a plan to use the hospital basement to reach the helicopter, but the basement is full of bodies and smoke, making it difficult to breathe. The group covers their mouths as they press forward, hoping to get to the helicopter before it's too late. Unfortunately, the basement door is stuck, and they have to use an axe to break it open. Just as they do, a zombie emerges and attacks Sister Cecilia. Manel quickly pulls the zombie away and burns its face against a hot pipe, allowing Lucia to finish the job with the axe. But the danger is far from over. Cecilia is bitten and infected, and she insists that the group continue without her. The group makes it to a hallway, where they encounter a cluster of zombies behind some furniture. Lucia quietly opens the door, but a child speaks out in fear when she sees her mother among the zombies. This makes the group hesitate for a moment, but they manage to avoid detection and continue their journey. As they approach another door, a zombie suddenly pushes over a set of shelves, causing a loud noise that alerts the other zombies. Manel hides with the child inside a cabinet, while the others take cover behind a door. The zombies begin pounding on the cabinet, and for a brief moment it looks like Manel's time may be up. Just as it seems like the end, the ship's crew bursts into the room, guns blazing, and quickly takes out the zombies. After a brief argument, the crew leaves, not noticing the survivors hiding nearby. With the immediate danger gone, the group finally makes it to the last door leading outside. Remembering an online tutorial, Manel ties a bunch of cages together to create a makeshift shield. With the shield in place, they start crossing the yard, but when a wheel gets stuck, it causes a noise that attracts zombies. Lucia uses her axe, while Manel holds off the zombies with a fire extinguisher. Victor continues pushing the cages, and with all their combined effort, they finally make it to the gate. Lucia uses her axe to break the chain on the gate, and the group rushes through, but the zombies are closing in fast. Manel stays behind to hold them off while Victor leads the children to the helicopter. After a desperate battle, the gate is locked with a scarf, and Manel joins the others just as they reach the helicopter. But the helicopter engine doesn't start. Victor finally discovers an unplugged cable, reconnects it, and the helicopter engine roars to life. The sound attracts the attention of the ship's crew, who rush to the yard and begin shooting at the zombies. They try to break open the gate, threatening the survivors if they don't comply. With no other choice, Victor nods at Manel, who rushes to break another chain and open a second gate. As a new wave of zombies rushes in, the crew is quickly overwhelmed. With the crew distracted, Manel fights his way through the zombies with an axe, clearing the path for the helicopter to take off. After a few tense moments, the helicopter finally lifts off, with Manel climbing aboard just in time to escape the horde. As they soar into the sky, Manel looks out at the devastation below. The helicopter is headed toward the Canary Islands, but his phone rings once more. It's Belen urging him not to come. 2 fighter jets fly overhead, signaling that the islands are already infected. Thank you so much for watching. Your support means the world to us. Don't forget to subscribe and check out our other videos. See you next time.